Hey everyone, Chris Lopez here, and welcome back to another podcast episode where we are doing I think it's our sixth house hacking mastermind. My co-host Ben Einspahr will confirm that in a minute. Ben, is this six or five? This is six, right?
This is number 6.
All right, so we're at lucky number 6, and Ben's got I think a little different agenda today, and so before we kind of jump into that and we turn it over, so we got our other co-host Jeff White with us. Jeff, how's it going?
It's going excellent. I'm happy to be here, and it'd be nice to reverse the roles here and have our ladies take over and us just ask the question.
Ooh, okay. Well, maybe we can flip the script and we can just take Ben's agenda, throw it out the window. We won't do that to you, Ben. No, so actually, it's going to be a cool show today because we got Suleyka. So Jeff's fiance. How's it going, Suleyka? And
fantastic. I'm so happy to be on the podcast.
Yeah, and so we want to get you and also Alyson, so Ben's wife. Alyson, how's it going?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Again.
So we wanted to bring on, just obviously always get as much input from the ladies as possible, especially from their perspective as house hacking. Because I think Alyson's, her tagline, her bio is great, where she's a what's your former house hacking skeptic? Is that what you call yourself?
Yes.
Yes.
Turned advocate.
Yes, and now you guys just closed on your second place, I think, the last couple days? Or...
Yep.
In the process of closing on there. So I wanted to kind of get your guys on here as well so we can get your input. So Ben, take it away, man. What's the agenda?
Awesome. Well, first, for those are listening and not watching the audio, we're actually recording this in our empty house. We just finished moving into house hack number 2, but we're still waiting for internet to get set up. So that's why we're improvising, and we're actually recording this through a now clean house hack number 1. And on top of that, I'm super excited for this recording. I've been looking forward to it ever since we met. Ever since Jeff, Suleyka, and Alyson all met at Old Town Arvada and had a few beers. Yeah. And I know, I think if we would have just recorded while we were having those beers, that could have been a conversation of its own, or a podcast of its own. But yeah, I'm super excited. Actually, when we're going to do a little something different, we have some questions we're going to go over, and Jeff's going to ask a couple to Alyson. I'm going to ask a couple to Suleyka, and we'll go from there. It's going to be a good time.
Awesome.
All right. Well, cheers, guys.
Yes, indeed. All right.
Who goes first?
We're going to do virtual rock, paper, scissors, Ben, or...
I like that. Ready? One, two, three.
Shoot. Scissors.
I'll ask Suleyka.
You go ahead.
Suleyka.
You're a rock.
Yeah, who wait,
Okay,
sorry.
we couldn't see your hands.
Yeah, so Jeff had scissors. What'd you have, Ben? We couldn't see your hands with the video.
I had paper.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So Jeff wins. Jeff, your call. Are you going to ask the questions or make Ben ask?
Take the ball.
All right.
First dibs for Ben.
All right. Suleyka, I just have one question for you. Well, actually a couple. Based on your experience, what tips can you provide on managing the house hackers that listeners will not find anywhere else?
Okay. Well, so I know that in the last podcast, or not, the last podcast I was in, which was 2.5 years ago, we mentioned that it's important to assign drawers and to make sure that that roommates know where they can put their stuff. Well, we followed that rule for a little bit, and then once we moved out, we just stopped. We were like, okay, you guys are on your own, do your own thing. Okay, so we move out. And then we had it's a 3-bedroom unit down there. So we had about 6 tenants move in and out throughout that time. And
Is this house hack number 4? Is this your, because just so the listeners know, Jeff and Suleyka are house hacking in a 10-bedroom, 6-bath. Is that correct?
You got too many baths. We only have 4.
Oh, sorry. You guys, I mean, you two are all-stars. You're all-stars, and I can definitely relate when as you're all gung-ho up front, but then when you move on afterwards, you kind of get complacent, I guess. Is that what you're saying?
And we did. Yeah, that was our first house hack with roommates. And so we were like, oh, that was great. All right, let's do it again. We move out. And so then we filled those vacancies and everything seemed fine. When tenants would move out after about 6 months, they would leave the room spotless. And we would go in and be like, great, thanks. Fill it. And out of sight, out of mind. I mean, we would just like go on with our lives. Okay, so recently that unit that had the 3 bedrooms where we had tenant roommates, we ended up having those tenants live in the upper unit. And so, of course, we had to go in and clean out the whole thing. And Lord Jesus, we
didn't clean it, luckily.
Oh gosh. Okay. So we figured this out the hard way, that when you don't assign drawers, and here's tip number 1. Definitely assign drawers and keep them assigned always, because here's what happened is after that time went by, when roommates would move out, they don't necessarily go to the fridge and get their food out that they had in there, or the freezer or the cabinet. They might take, some of the things there. We furnish everything, so they don't really have pots and pans, things like that. So they just kind of bypass the kitchen and just walk out. Well, because the rooms were spotless, we were just like turning them over. As roommates were moving in and some of the food started to smell, of course they would like throw it out, but it wasn't like a deep clean of the kitchen. So Rosa, the cleaning lady, God bless her heart.
What did you say her name was? Rosa?
Yes.
Rosa. Yeah.
Rosa. She sounds like an excellent cleaner and just a sweet lady.
Awesome. She ended up, this was after the place was cleared out, she ended up taking 2 huge bags, these big black bags that you normally put weeds in and stuff from outside, full of food, just trashed food that people left behind. And I was like, oh my God, what a filthy mess. So tip number 1, before you move anybody into your place, and this is what I've learned, take a picture of your empty refrigerator. Save that picture in your phone, not just in your camera roll, because as soon as you reach your limit, you're gonna take those out. Those aren't like sexy pictures, obviously. So put that like separately in a file that says, your address, whatever, that has just the pictures for that house. And then make a version of it and then write in, Tom, Jerry, Joe, and send that picture to the roommates and say, hey, these are your assigned spots. Like assign those spots so that they know exactly where they're at. And as soon as Joe moves out, all right, now go back and then just write into the picture, Sally, whatever. So everybody knows their spots. And then when that roommate moves out, then Rosa can come in and she knows that she just needs to clear out that spot. Whatever food is left behind for that person, boom, that's out of the way. Now there's a clean spot for the next person. And it just keeps that refrigerator continuously clean, continuously with food for the roommates that are actually there. Yeah. We found out that there was food from like 2.5 years ago. So that's
yeah, if you saw the freezer, it was 90% of what was in that freezer was from probably 2 years ago. And the current roommates that live there now just used a little bit of it. They just adjusted because rent by room tenants just adjust to things. They don't really say, oh, well, I'm gonna throw all this stuff out, because they don't know whose it is. They think maybe it's the other roommate. So they just leave it in there for months, years at a time, and that's what happened.
Yeah, they don't want to disrupt anybody else's food. So
that's such
true.
a great, like, it's so simple and really like a small thing in the act of owning a property and running a rental, but it's one of those small things that makes a big difference a couple years down the road, and just those small things that streamline things. And I'm glad you mentioned this, Suleyka, because I often, as we're talking to new clients on to do room by room house hacking, we often talk about, hey, where's that trade-off is about, hey, how much time does it take? Because it does take more time to do room by room rental, and is it extra time and effort, worth the extra income? And I often tell people, I said, there's always that learning curve you go through there, but you have to, no matter how many systems and processes you still have to do it for a while and refine it, because once you do and learn these little things like that, that all just, it compounds and saves you a bunch of time down the road. So that's a great tip.
That is right. Something as simple as olive oil that's left behind in a cupboard, that has a 6-month shelf life. Cookies, 2 months shelf life. So even cabinets is another thing too, because no one's just going to go through the cabinets and start throwing things out. I know Jeff would probably eat those cookies.
Yeah, there was leftover cookies.
Are they oatmeal raisin or chocolate chip?
If they're chocolate chip, I'm definitely going to eat them and just say it with some other tenant. If oatmeal raisin, I'll leave it for Ben.
So
The chocolate
Suleyka,
chips look like raisins.
Suleyka, you and Jeff are your strategy is your rent by the room. So if you have continual turnover in tenants, so you may have a 4-bedroom house and just one tenant is moving out, so they're taking their part of the refrigerator. Is there just a little section that you clean, or that they need to clean out, or how does that work if they have maybe a quarter or a third of the refrigerator that is theirs?
Well, if they have a quarter or a third, they could either clean it out or not. I really don't think that they're doing this to be rude. They're literally leaving the room spotless. Like, you can't even tell anybody was there. So I'm grateful for that. However, in the haste of moving out, that's the last thing to think about. So you're just on your way out. I mean, there could be another roommate cooking while you're pulling your last box out of the house, and you just don't think about what's in the fridge. Because there are just other roommates there. But when you have that assigned spot, now, we can send the cleaning lady, or ourselves will know exactly, because we've kept track of whose shelf is whose. We can go in there and just get rid of that, clean it out, have it ready for the next person. Now say, all right, this is your assigned shelf. You send like a group text to everybody so they can see, hey, this is their spot. And hopefully they respect the space. I mean, I don't know what other way, I don't know yet what other way it could be better than that, but you definitely don't want to end up with all this expired food, where at the end of the day, you don't know whose food is what.
It literally was, think of a whole entire fridge filled with food and a freezer, and that's in just 1.5 trash bags filled of that stuff, and that's pretty much what the cleaning. I don't even know what the people that were living there with what they were using, or they just always ate out. But it was literally like the whole fridge. I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
this is insane.
It's
Wow.
an oversight.
I was like, do they eat? Do they ever cook anything? And we have a guy that at a restaurant, and he just didn't have any food in there. I don't know. It was weird. It was really a weird situation. This is our North Clint house, our second house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not only that, the side door, I thought that could be just a common door, ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, and it's just whatever you put there, anybody can grab. And I thought that was a good idea. No, it's not a good idea. Literally assign everything to the door, the shelves, and fridges these days. You can take shelves out. I just did this the other day. I was like, you know what? There are 3 of us in this house. Let me just keep top shelf, middle shelf, lower shelf, and that's it. Like, it's one person. How much do you really need to have in there? And most people don't cook all the food that they have in there. So it's worked out great. I love it. I'm so happy that I hope anybody that's doing house hacking that they use that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a phenomenal tip. So, Jeff, what's your question for Alyson?
Yes. All right, Alyson. First question, 7-part. Part 1. No, I'm just kidding. Again, what has been since you've done Airbnb a lot, what has been your most challenging guest experience, and how did you resolve that and learn from it?
That's a great question, Jeff. Thanks for asking that. I would have to start that answer out by saying we've largely had really nice guests. I think one of my biggest fears when we started this was dealing with really difficult people. Nobody wants to do that, and they're in your home. So I was, worried what kind of people are we going to get? But we've largely had the easiest people, the nicest people. We've had a couple challenges, and I'll talk about one of them. we had this couple coming to stay with us for about a week, or was it a week and a half? It was a long stay. I think it was 10 days. 10 days. Last summer, and so we were outside working, and when guests check in and we're out and about, we'll introduce ourselves and say, hey, are you so-and-so? You're in the right place. It's always kind of weird pulling up to someone's home and like, am I in the right place? Am I knocking on the right door? Or, so we try to make them feel like they're in the right place or if we're out there. So we went out, introduced ourselves and said, hey, Ben said so nicely, is there anything we can help you with or whatever? And the guest's husband says, oh yeah, you can get all of our bags for us.
Wow.
Wow.
Did Ben wear the little hat too?
Kind of like, okay.
So did you get him, Ben? Like, what was your response to that? It's kind of like,
well, he just went out there and grabbed it.
Absolutely. And I took them all in one trip. But Alyson, do you think it had to do with maybe where they are from at all? Like where they grew up or their culture?
Yeah, possibly, but I'm not going to stereotype any sorts of people on the podcast, of course. However, this all comes down to expectations. So guests that are normally staying in hotels where they have full service, someone takes their bags, somebody parks their car, somebody brings their food up, somebody cleans their dishes, all of those things. It's a different experience than being in an Airbnb and staying in someone's home and, maybe everything isn't 5-star. Maybe you have to jiggle the handle when you flush the toilet or, things like that. But so I knew at the very beginning that we were going to be hearing from this guest every day and it wasn't going to be a good thing. I could just tell when he was walking in. So Ben grabs his bags and we're walking through the gate and he goes, that gate doesn't latch all the way. And so, okay. It does. You just have to give it a little, push. And Ben's carrying all of his bags. And so the gentleman grabbed the gate and I was like, okay, let me help you with that. No big deal. We're walking around the back to the entrance and making friendly conversation. And he goes, well, it's a nice fence. How much did it cost? I said, okay. Well, I don't really remember. But anyway, entrance is right this way. And just kind of odd conversation. And so we get him inside and just kind of a strange character, but that's okay. And he's, oh, this is nice. We left him to it. Didn't hear anything. And the next morning, Ben left to run an errand or something like that. And the way our Airbnb is set up is we have kind of a back corridor. We have a window where their stairwell is, which looks into our area that's covered by a set of blinds. And so that's just kind of our privacy. People aren't really hanging out in the corridor, so it's not a big deal. But anyway, I'm sitting there eating my breakfast in our little breakfast nook, and he pokes his head through the blinds, through the window, and says, hey, where's Ben? I'm like,
well, good morning,
sir.
Did he want
Top morning to you. Thank you for coming through our window. So immediately that made me a little bit upset. Like respecting people's privacy. We're not going to go into your area. Don't come into ours. If you need something, send us a message. We'll respond right away. Or knock on the door. Yep. We'll respond right away gladly. If you can't get a hold of us, then bang on the door and we'll come running. But so he's poking his head through and stretching out the blinds, and he says, where's Ben? And I said, well, he's out at the moment. Is there something I can do to help you with or help you with? And he says, yeah, there's just a lot of things wrong upstairs, and I just need to talk to him. I said, well, actually, I'd be glad to help you. I'm actually the host. So what's going on? And he says, well, this futon is just unlivable. And I said, okay, are you trying to sleep on the futon or what are you trying to do or whatever? And he said, oh, I'm not sleeping on it, but I just can't sit on it. It's not comfortable. It's unlivable. Okay. Well, maybe there's a spring. It's not the greatest futon in the whole wide world, right? We got a new mattress and it's decent. We've never had a complaint. Okay, we had one complaint before that it wasn't the most comfortable to sleep on, but we hadn't got around to replacing it. So I thought, okay, that's legitimate. We'll see if we can do something to make it more comfortable. We'll send him up later and we'll take care of it. Is that okay? And he goes, yeah, but also, it's just really unfortunate there's a step that goes up to the bathroom. I was like, well, unfortunately, that's a structural thing and can't really change that, but we did indicate in the listing that you'd have to climb stairs in order to get to the unit. So hope you saw that. I hope the first 12 stairs weren't an issue compared to the one step to the bathroom, but not really something we can change, So he just went down this laundry list as he's poking his head through my window, which I'm already livid about. So the last thing he complained about was the kitchen table. So we have a kitchen table with a drop leaf to save space. Most people come and it's couples or two people staying. When there's two people staying, we know how many guests are there. We put 2 chairs out, we drop a leaf, we push it up to the wall to give them more space. 2 chairs in the corner, super simple. 2 towels, 4 pillows, whatever. So we know there's a couple staying there, so that's how we have it set up. And he says, you really should set this up as a formal dining room. You have that table pushed against the wall and those chairs. Just pull it out. It would look so much nicer. I don't know what you guys are doing or whatever. And I said, well, you're welcome to do that. Make yourself at home. Just this laundry list of weird complaints, things that are easily adjustable. Like the blinds aren't closed. Okay. So anyways, I was livid because he had invaded my privacy, first of all, in his nitpicking list. But so I took a break. I said, well, we'll chat in a little bit and we'll figure it out. So I stepped away and talked to Ben, and I said, what, I think we should do something to fix the futon, but we need to talk to him about his expectations. And so I sent him a message and said, hey, let's have a quick chat whenever you get a second. We'll figure out the futon. And he came down, and I just said, look, you're in somebody's home. You have to respect our space, and I think we need to adjust our expectations. You're not the Ritz. We're not charging you Ritz prices. This is a very affordable price for what you're getting. It's reasonable. And if you're not going to be comfortable here, we're glad to refund you for the rest of your stay. We want you to be happy. And, oh, no, it's lovely. Everything's lovely. Everything's great. I just wanted you to know these things. And he went through them again, of course. And so, long story short, we went out and bought a new futon that day at American Furniture Warehouse. Hauled out the
Wait, you went out and bought a new futon just
installed
for
the new
him?
one because,
Chris is asking.
well, so
I was gonna say
no,
okay.
but yes, we needed a new one anyways. We just hadn't gotten to it yet. It's a pretty big purchase, right?
Yeah, I mean those aren't cheap.
And right, and he was going to be there for 10 days, so I'm thinking, okay, 30 divided by 10 is how many days of the mortgage that he's going to be paying for? Like, well, maybe now's a good time to go get a futon, And maybe he's pleasantly surprised by the fact that we go out there and we buy a new futon, and he'll probably complain about something else, but at least we did our best, right?
So what was his response?
So we spent our Saturday.
This is amazing. Like, that is like amazing customer service. Like, I get like, hey, it was on your to-do list. Hey, let's just go ahead and get it off our to-do list and maybe shut this guy up.
Yeah.
But when he delivered it and installed it, like, that is red carpet treatment. Like, what was his reaction?
Yeah.
Was it grateful or?
Well, we didn't see them till later, but I did send a message to his wife. His wife actually booked, so she and I corresponded through the app, and I actually didn't see her much in person. So with him in person, with her through the app, and they weren't around. So we installed it, we finished it, and it looked great. We got a good deal. It was fine. We needed to buy it anyways. And so I sent her a message, said, hey, it's in there. Hopefully you guys are much more comfortable now, yada, yada, yada. And she sent a message that, thank you, it's lovely, we really appreciate it. So she was lovely. And then we didn't hear much from him the rest of the stay. They left a great review. They left a nice note in our guest book. He did follow up with Ben on his way out and said, it must feel good to get something right, huh, buddy, or something like that. And I was listening from inside, and I was like, I could have just, but, so Ben didn't have to clean up any messes of mine. I just kept my mouth shut and stayed inside.
Ben, you had quite the ego boost.
So for anyone listening, that's doing Airbnb, you take pride in what you do and your decorations. Even like Alice and I, we did all the renovations ourselves. So you take pride in what you did, and sometimes you can take things very personal. If it was just like something you bought and you immediately rented it out, it was just a straight investment property, you wouldn't take it as personal. But when your blood, sweat, and tears go into it, you take it a little personal. But if that is one thing that you cannot do, it's a business. It's like Chris said, or not, like Jeff said, it's a people business, and you just can't take it personal, and you have to take a deep breath and not overreact and think what's a logical thing to do, and then you take it from there. A lot of stuff he said was condescending, but it's very important to keep good reviews. They're a long stay, and don't let it get to you. I mean, they left, and it was a challenge that we overcame.
How close were you to? Because I think you guys have a much higher tolerance than I do with situations like that. Like, how close did you get to being like, shut up and deal with it or get out? Like, because I mean, I can imagine if I'm eating breakfast and someone sticks right in through the window blinds, I'm gonna be pissed. And just a bunch of four-letter words coming, happening in my mind. Like, how close were you guys? Like, screw the reviews, just get out.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit used to it. I worked in the hospitality industry during my entire 20s and in high school. So I worked for Hilton, I worked for Ritz, I worked for Marriott, and people are mean, man. Like, if you've worked in hospitality or the service industry, you've heard it all. And so this was really minor. He wasn't yelling, he wasn't belligerent. He was trying to be respectful. He was just, he was just very condescending. And I did take it personally because we put so much blood, sweat, and tears upstairs and love into that area. So we're super proud of it. But yeah, I think I was more concerned with, let's see what we can do to make him happy, because he's paying a huge chunk of our mortgage this month, and that's the bottom line. So, yeah, exactly. So it is hard when they're in your home, though, and that's why I had that conversation with him. Like, look, you're in our home, you have to be respectful of our space. And so right after that, I took a big piece of packing tape and I taped the blinds to the bottom of the window.
And they're still there.
And I was like, those blinds aren't going anywhere. You try to poke your head through, let me see it.
Did you set a booby trap? So if you did that, like nails would come out and poke him or anything? Like a Home Alone trap?
Like Home Alone.
Yeah.
Yes. We should have. But they were fine and quiet the rest of the stay, and so maybe they just needed to get it out of their system, and maybe it was their first Airbnb, and that's why I wanted to have the expectation conversation with them. Like, it's not a hotel, it's a different experience. No matter where you travel, it's a different experience, and so expectations have to be appropriate. So,
and it's just a game of a game of odds. If you have 50 to 70 guests a year that stay in there, odds are you're going to run into a couple headaches. And if you go into it already having that in your mind, it's easier to overcome, and you just expect it.
Put that one on the headache list.
And I mean, here's the reality, though.
The thing that I saw in that was that a person that particular chose your Airbnb over somebody else's. that would make me feel like, oh my God, this super picky person chose to stay at my place for 10 days. And at the end, he did leave you guys a good review. I think, wow, all this blood, sweat, and tears attracted a Ritz Carlton type guy. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
great job for you guys.
Yeah.
True. Oh,
Chris,
thanks.
Chris, what were you saying?
Not, I was going to say, you know, in the grand scheme of things, especially dealing with tenants, like that's not really a bad tenant issue. It's more just annoying and like what a weirdo. But in the grand scheme of things, having tenants that could, you know, trash a place or commit issues or sit there and not pay rent for months, like it's not, you know, it's not a big deal. It's just a lot more personal as a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it really was more personal.
So
So
if Ben was there with you in the kitchen, would that have made a difference?
Well, Ben would have been nice and just gone up there and taken care of it right away, probably. But I don't know. He might have been a little bit milder. Who knows? I don't know.
So, Alyson, before we before we hit record on here, before we record on here, you made some comment about flipping the script. So did Jeff here too. So, take your question for Jeff. Let's throw an audible in here.
I love it.
You prepared?
Well, no, I wasn't, but I always have a lot of questions for Jeff and Suleyka because I feel like they are like the ultimate house hackers, and I have so much respect for you guys because you really house hack. I mean, I really like my privacy and my space, and you guys really get after it, and I have a lot of respect for you guys. So I've actually been asking Ben for a while. I'm like, you need to have Suleyka on. I want to hear about, like, from her perspective. I want to hear what's going on. Like, she's living with, like, I don't know, 10 other people. I don't even know, like, how many people are in their house, and, like, how does she get ready in the morning, and how does she make her pancakes? So, like, I don't know, like, all those things. I'm like, you need to have her on. She has so much great insight. So I'm really glad you guys are on. But I would love to hear about your most challenging roommate experience. I think we heard some when we were all getting drinks, but yeah, what's been your most challenging roommate, maybe?
She's asking you, Katie.
For me?
Or are they different?
I think she was
Most
asking.
challenging.
I think she was asking Suleyka, right?
Oh, me?
Yeah,
Well, I guess
it's both.
both of you. I guess you guys have shared the same roommates for a while now.
No, Alyson, you're asking
Yeah.
the question. Who do you want to answer? Pick. You're in the driver's seat. You get to pick here. We flipped the script for you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me see if they have the same answer. Let me ask Suleyka first. Who's been your most challenging roommate? And let's see if Jeff's matches.
Like, what's the big deal? But it's a big deal for me, and it might be a big deal for you or any of the other ladies out there. Okay, this was it. Usually, I would just do laundry whenever my basket was full. I'd be like, okay, time to do laundry. So I would just do it. I'd be done. No big deal. Until literally, what is this? The fourth house hack.
Or the third one, last one.
No, this one.
Is it this one? No, it was the last one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fresh in my mind.
She's still
Still fresh in my mind. Okay. I was doing laundry. I put it in the dryer. So it's not just clothes that's wet and you can't tell what it is. Now it's dry. So you can tell what everything is. I was drying my clothes and I left for like not even that long. Shouldn't have done that, but at the same time, it taught me a big lesson. I left, and then one of the roommates wanted to do his laundry, and so then he like pulled my stuff out of the dryer, and these are like my delicates. Like, I don't want
I read you.
Yay!
like, I don't want roommates like grabbing my bras, my panties. Like, no. So I come home and like my basket is full of stuff and it's all dry and it's just all in there, and I was like, oh my god, babe, somebody touched all my shit. Like, they just looked, sorry if I cussed, they just looked through, like they just saw everything. Ew, oh my god, no, we have to, no. And Jeff's like, what's the big deal? And I was like, it's a big deal for me. It's a big deal. I don't want people putting their hands on my clothes, whether it's wet or dry. It doesn't matter. Like, don't touch my stuff. So
Mhm.
we decided to resolve that issue once I calmed down. We decided to just set days, and it was so simple. I mean, we you don't think about some things until it happens to you, but we just decided, okay, let's have everybody pick a day, or even 2 days if you don't have very many roommates in that room, and you can say, okay, you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever you want. And then if you don't make it one day, then you can do the laundry the next day. And never again have I had to deal with
Yeah.
that issue.
Yeah, I
That
was
is
more of
not
the
fun.
I was
No.
at Ben version 2. I was like, oh, it's no big deal. It's all good. We'll just talk to him. It's good. It's not a big deal. But I didn't really understand the like. Obviously, men's clothes are way simpler, not as nearly as delicate. Is that the word?
Kit?
So, thank you. There you go. So yeah, no, I learned that lesson, and ever since we resolved that, created the days for laundry, it's resolved that issue.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's
That
about
is
finding a
not fun.
solution. Like everything you've been saying, Suleyka, is easy. Like just it's everything's figure out. You can figure out anything. It's just coming up with a simple solution. I mean,
Mhm.
we're
That
all
you
here
can
for
then
this.
implement,
Absolutely.
down the line, and it's going to pay off. A small little tweak. Yeah. Great
Jeff,
question.
would you say your answer would be the same? Was that your most challenging guest experience?
Yeah, no
No,
way on
Roommates?
that one.
that wasn't the one I was thinking of at all.
Yeah.
We have two different people in mind. Um, Most challenging, it wasn't a roommate. I would say just a couple. That Northland house again, going back to that. Basically, when we did this, she was mentioned earlier, we did the switch. We brought the rent by room people from downstairs upstairs, and we got rid of the people upstairs. They just did not renew their lease. So that was my first time not renewing a lease. Um, and it was a mess. It was basically at the time when they moved out, probably 15 people living in a 3 bedroom, 2 bath place. Another 7 adults, 8 kids, something like that. That I know of for sure. And
Wow.
it was just you can imagine how much damage it could do to a place. Luckily, they had a pretty high security deposit, which I pretty much used 95% of it to cover. They destroyed a brand new carpet after
Mm.
2.5 years. They destroyed like they burned have a burn mark on a fridge. They had door jambs they messed up. They put holes in um, holes in walls for some reason. Stickers from the kids' room. It was just like
Scribbles.
scribbles. Luckily, I had hardwood floors throughout. Otherwise, that carpet, all that carpet, the whole upstairs had to be replaced because of how bad it was in that one room. The laundry room had carpet and it was brand new and it was completely I had to replace that whole entire carpet. That's how bad it was. Um, so that was my word, and I got more complaints and right before they moved out, all the tenants below the rent by room people that are usually more laid back, they complained to me. I got text message, phone calls, emails, multiple like last 2 months was more complaints about noise and banging on ceilings, cussing at each other, sometimes even picking fights like I'm gonna call the cops or why don't you come down here and talk, like it was so stupid
No
for
one would ever go to
yeah
the
no
front door though. They would just be like yelling through the vents. Dumb. So dumb. But there's nothing we could have done.
yeah, that's a tenant
All right,
dispute, tenant to
you guys
tenant.
need to figure this out. Please be adults.
And they did try, like they talked to each other, or at least they tried. But the tenant above the family, she just didn't care. Unfortunately, she just said let the kids run around, never take their shoes off, and never listen to anybody, not even me. So that was my worst. Like I said, more complaints in that 2.5, 3 month period before they moved out than I got in all my other properties, all my other tenants combined
How'd you
easily.
resolve it?
How did I resolve it? Resolved it by getting them out, basically.
The old switcheroo too.
The switcher.
Because guys, there is a saying that says, God, I hope I get it right. The light was made from the constant improvement of the candle. So sometimes you really just have to switch things completely. And what we decided to do, because I said, Jeff, okay, if we get another family in there, you're probably going to deal with the same issues. So we can't just say, oh, okay, this family is quieter than the last. Like, it's going to happen. Kids are going to be kids. We can't stop them. It's fine. Like, let them live their life. Plus, oh, the pandemic was going on. So kids were not in school. So there was just noise 24/7.
Yeah.
But what we did, simple solution. We said, let's just flip flop it.
Yeah.
Let's only rent a family downstairs and do room by room upstairs. Problem solved.
Yeah. And since we did that,
That's super
we
smart.
haven't received one complaint.
Nope.
I mean, the
They're
rent
so
by room
happy.
people, yeah, they're both really happy to be living where they're at, and it's worked out beautifully. And the car situation, you can imagine with 8 adults, whatever I said, plus the rent by room people, there's like 11 cars out there. So it after that, now it's whittled down to just basically 4 cars, which is more normal for that neighborhood. And doesn't draw a lot of attention. Like you can imagine when I put this funny thing when I posted that ad on Facebook Marketplace, a friendly neighbor chimed in saying, "Thank God you're getting new tenants in there. It looks like a junkyard over there." So the neighbor I never met or seen before, just some random person. They just know.
No. So did you have to evict those tenants? The bad ones?
They were month to month, luckily. So I just said,
Okay.
I'm not renewing your lease, and I gave them 30 days. But that's a whole other topic for conversation of getting people out sooner when you do
Yeah.
not renewing leases. But they moved out after 60 days from when I gave them notice.
Okay. So some pushback, but not a lot.
Yeah, I mean they knew they were getting stressed out too, and they had a big family. They need a place for this themselves, not sharing any walls and like that, and they can make all the noise they want. So it worked out for the best for both
They
parties.
wanted it to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Interesting. That could be a whole nother thing. how to properly terminate and deal with all of that good stuff. Yeah.
And
No further questions.
Regarding laundry stuff, yeah, I get that's you can see how we're different. Is I wasn't even thinking that laundry person at all. But I get what you're saying.
Isn't that funny how that happens?
So, Suleyka, do you want a shot at asking the question?
Yeah, sure. Do I want a shout out? Oh, okay. Can we do Alyson? I have a couple myself, but I would love to know, are there any quotes that you go by that just come to mind whenever a challenging situation comes up, or are during these, like, Airbnb type situations, or even when you said blood, sweat, and tears went into you fixing the upstairs of your Airbnb? So what kinds of things did you like hang on to that just really help get you through that challenging character building moments?
So diplomatically put, Suleyka, thank you. That's a great question. That is a tough question. I kind of like live, laugh, love. No, I'm just kidding. Ben hates that quote, so that's why I threw that out there. One quote that comes to mind often is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. I love that one, and it can be applied to so many aspects of life. Whether it's trying to tile the curb of your freaking shower or handling a difficult person. It can be applied in so many ways. And so I guess it really gets you thinking outside of the box. Like, we keep trying to do the same thing. It doesn't work. What else can we do? Gosh, that's really the only quote that comes to mind. But, any of those customer service quotes, if the guest is, you want the guest to be happy. Guest satisfaction is the most important, so any of those.
What about you, Ben?
Well, first, Alyson, that was brilliant. I know you were kind of put on the spotlight, but I absolutely love your response, and now I have to follow up with that.
Thanks, Ben.
I'm Googling something right now.
Give him a
I don't have a special quote. It's just something that always comes to mind is for example, the past few days, Alice and I have had a lot going on. We're moving out of our current house hack number 1 and moving to number 2. Moving isn't fun. This is our 6th move. After all this, I don't know how we accumulated more things. I think it's just that we've had a bigger space, but we had more things. So, and then
We're having a baby. There's more
yes,
stuff.
and yes, having a pregnant wife, it makes things challenging. You know what I I'm digging myself into a hole. But when you're
No, he's right. He's right.
when you're going through it, it seems like it's the end of the world. I think I've said this before. It's when you look back, it's not as bad as it actually is. When you look back on it, I mean, it sucks when you're going through everything and it's miserable. But if you go back, let's say, well, one of the main reasons Alyson and I house hack is 1, for more financial freedom and peace, and 2 is we love traveling and we love going on vacations. So when we're sitting on the beach somewhere and we think back to, oh, we had to clean the baseboards. I just cleaned all these baseboards. I bet we have any rental. We have the cleanest baseboards you'll find. I'm just kidding. But there's when you look back on it, it's worth it. Everything that you do is worth it. It's little sacrifice, which some people view as a large sacrifice, for great reward.
That reminds me of what you guys just said together. Reminds me of 2 quotes. One of them, especially the one sitting on the beach, is don't expect a large trophy for small effort. It's just not going to happen. That's not how life works. And the other one is, and I don't know who said these things. They just play in my mind sometimes. Another thing is, if you do what's hard, life will be easy. If you do what's easy, life will be hard. It's always easier to do the easy thing, but there's no payoff. So
those are awesome.
Forward is definitely going to pay you guys as margaritas on the beach, and your children's college tuition and whatnot. So yeah, you guys are really breaking a sweat for your own success, which is important.
Chris, do you have anything?
Any quotes?
Or just something when the long days. I know you starting your business there early on, it was 7 days a week. Was there something that kept you going, of like there's a purpose, there's a why, something along those lines?
Yeah. No, that's Chris, not me.
That's for Chris. Sorry.
I mean, my things are, I like challenges. I like the, hey, I can build something new, do something new. But bottom line is I'm a grinder. Like, I am not the smartest person. I don't think I'm the fastest person, but I will work my ass off more than pretty much anyone else out there, is always my attitude. And it's just like, hey, I will work. And hopefully a lot of times, my metaphor is you hopefully kind of do that easy and kind of go through doors and windows. But sometimes it's just, hey, if I bang my head against the wall long enough, I eventually get through the other side. And that's my attitude, is just work.
I like that.
I love it.
Grind
Nice.
it. All right. So, Chris, how are we looking on time?
So we have
right
about
now?
10 minutes left.
Okay. So, with that said, I have a new segment I want to do for it, and to go back, one of my if I don't think Chris has published his 2021 investing strategies book, but one of my goals for that was continual improvement for the House Hacking Masterminds podcast, and that every once in a while I want to have like a bonus episode. For example, the one we're having right now, investing from a female perspective. And there's also something I want to do and I want to expand on down the road, and maybe, for example, house hacking focusing on short-term rentals only. So for anyone listening, I guess be on the lookout for that, for those in the near future. And if anyone listening has any ideas similar to what we're doing, my email will be in the show notes so reach out to me. And I mean, because I think when Chris, Jeff, and I created this podcast, it goes back to our main purpose and goal was continual just growth and of the Denver metro house hacking community, and just encourage building your network. But with that said, I just created this yesterday. It's called the podcast rewind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play both Alyson and Suleyka. We're on previous podcasts about around the same time, about 2 years ago, and I'm going to play episode from one of those, or a portion of it, and I'm going to go back and see if their thoughts have changed. And I'm working on this on the fly, so here we go. Alyson, are you good if I go first with you?
Sure.
All right.
Interrogate me.
I'm going to play a clip from our first podcast together with Chris, recorded about, like I said, a year and a half ago. Our Airbnb was maybe a month or two old, and in the podcast you're describing your initial thoughts back in 2015 when I first brought up landlording. That's not it.
So how long was Ben into it before you got into it? Are we talking months? Yeah, I'm just curious. What was the? Because this is
That's a really good question. I remember a very distinct time when Ben and I first started dating, when he was looking at buying duplexes in Omaha, and to me that just sounded like a nightmare, a tenant nightmare. And so that was back maybe 2015.
All right, Alyson, when you first heard about it, a tenant nightmare, is that, do you still think about that? Or after being a successful house hacker for 2 years, do you still feel that being a landlord is a nightmare?
I would say no. I would say it has its challenges for sure. I think the greatest challenge for us has been finding the right person and going through the screening process and finding the right tenants. That's the part that I hate. Once we get a win-win and we get somebody in there and expectations are appropriate and they're happy, they have a place to live that's for a reasonable price, and we're happy, we are, we're getting business, then it's good. And, there's nothing awful that has really happened. But trying to find the right person and sifting through all the crap, that's a challenge for me. Now we don't have a lot of tenants. If we had a lot of tenants, I might feel differently. I might not be able to manage that. But no, I wouldn't say it's a nightmare. I'd say it's manageable. It just takes a lot of work. Cleaning, writing a lease, thinking through all the nuances of how to make your house work for the next people that are moving in, trying to get your home ready for other people to move in. I mean, we've been doing that for the last month, just fixing all those little things and making it, great for the next people to move in. So no, I would say it's not a nightmare at all, and it's certainly manageable.
Well put.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
Good, you're still on board.
I'm still on board with certain criteria.
Alyson, what are those? What's that certain criteria?
Well, I'm not as committed as Jeff and Suleyka, I'll tell you. They are really committed. I love finding really creative ways to hack a house. I think I've talked about that in the past. That's so fun. I love looking at Zillow and this doesn't have a mother-in-law, tag, or it doesn't have a kitchenette tag, but oh my gosh, look at this. You could totally do this, this, and this, and it would be a great Airbnb. And I love finding those things. So for my criteria, it's privacy, separate entrance, and self-sufficient. They can cook their food, they can go to the bathroom and maybe even wash their clothes all in their unit and not even poke their head into mine or vice versa. So I would say that's my criteria. Privacy. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and Chris, you being a realtor, I think that makes your job easier if someone already knows what they want and what they're looking for. That helps you when you're searching for possible new house hacks for your clients.
Oh, absolutely. And that always comes down to, always trying to figure out what people's goals are and what that balance is, because everyone, especially in different stages, like, hey, when you guys bought your first house like a couple of years ago, you weren't pregnant. Now you're starting a family, and that next evolution of starting a family, it changes what you need and what in a house. Obviously, privacy becomes a lot more important usually, and so it's also just figure out what those needs are, and really identifying, hey, what are the must-haves? These are the just no-goes. These are the, we like them, but we can live without them, or compromise on some of these. Really categorizing things in those buckets is the way I always like to try to get our clients to talk about and always get people to think about, because there's no right investment for everyone. It's always that balance of, hey, what makes sense for your guys' personality, your wants at this stage in your life as well.
That's true.
Totally.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. So now going to, was everyone able to hear that all right?
Yeah, actually came through really well.
Great. All right. Suleyka, this was a podcast recorded with you and Jeff, as well as a couple's interview around the same time frame. And I believe during that time, you and Jeff were on your second house hack, and rapidly looking towards house hack number 3.
There we go.
Awesome recap. So, Suleyka, your opinion on house hacking, just when you're looking at house hacking number 2, were you gung-ho? Did you not want to do it? Like, what was your just attitude towards getting the next house hack that you guys were acquiring?
Well, I was definitely all for it, absolutely, because once we look at the numbers and how much extra we're making a month, we always try to live below our means, so it made it look like we just got raises at our jobs by doing really nothing that's too strenuous, right?
All right. So if you look at that, it looks like your main focus was kind of on the money side. Has anything changed since then?
I'm glad you said that. And I know, right? I'm not even a person that's driven by money. And when I finally really took a look at things, especially with the lockdown, I had time to make a vision board and do the whole thing. But I really got down to the nitty gritty. And no, actually, neither of us are driven by money. We're driven by freedom. And that was one thing that we learned that really drives us, is that freedom later on. Freedom to, if Jeff wants to sell coconuts on the beach, he can do it, but that's not going to be our livelihood. It's something that he can do to enhance his life because he wants to have fun and do something that he loves. Or if he wants to paint all day, he makes these beautiful paintings. I just love it, and I can't wait to see him grab that passion again and have the time to do that. So definitely not driven by money. And actually, I learned so many other things that being a house hacker has taught me and has ingrained more in me, and has just things that have helped me blossom in my own life. So I'm gonna rattle off a few, but I'll give you an example of one. But literally, like, increased love, freedom, growth, discipline, patience, gratitude has gone through the roof, personal growth, direction, balance, self-improvement. All these things have really happened, and I've noticed it in my life, and I've noticed it even in Jeff too. And it's just amazing. If we wouldn't be house hacking, and we would have had that condo that it took us 2 years to find, because we thought, oh, this is going to be our forever place. We would have been going to work, coming home, going to work, coming home. And of course, all the fun stuff in between. But, 6 months from now, we would know that we'd still be living in that same place. Right now, in 3 months, we're already going on to our next. So it's like super exciting to get things together, to get things ready to go. And I love that part. It's a new scenery, a new everything. And yeah, I was focused on the numbers without realizing that it can really make some changes within our relationship and just for even just my personal life. One thing that I'm reminded of was this one time I was doing some landscaping, and this was at this house, and I was yanking weeds, and I'm grabbing the weeds, and a snake, I don't know if you guys can see my fingers, but like a little garter snake like makes it through my fingers, and I'm terrified of snakes. I can't see them in commercials. I can't see them in movies. Oh, they're so gross. So like I felt something that it was like moving as I'm yanking weeds. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. I could have easily just gotten Jeff on the phone and said, babe, let's just call landscaper. Like, I'm not doing this. This is, oh God, I like right now, just even talk about it. I feel like my heart is, I could have threw my gloves out and just said, let's just get a landscaper, babe. Like, please, I don't want to do this. But no, after my mini freak out and the neighbors came over to like come kill it, I went back, and I went back to work because my focus, what I wanted, which was a decent looking yard, what I wanted was more important than what I feared. And I didn't realize that until later. And I thought, oh my God, never in a million years would I have done that. Would I have just gone out there? I've just been like, you know what? I'll just let those weeds stay there the winter time. They'll just die, whatever. No, I was more focused on the end goal than what I feared. And I fear that a lot. I'm shaking right now. But yeah, I made it happen. And so it taught me that discipline, patience too, which is the day you plant the seed is not the day that you're going to eat the fruit. You have to be patient with it and enjoy every moment. Don't just hold back and feel like, oh my God, okay, I'm going to suffer for 5 years until I have 5 rentals. No, no, have fun every day and enjoy the people that you're around and enjoy the process. Because I heard this other thing where it said kids aren't as happy Christmas afternoon as they are on Christmas morning. Why? Because it's the anticipation and it's everything. By the time the afternoon comes around, they've already opened their presents. Everything's like, oh, okay, it's cool. But it's that anticipation. So definitely savor it. And I love to savor every bit now, even when not so fun things happen.
Learning experience.
But I was going to say, so like that's, I mean, a great story that you use, but also just a general like great metaphor that, hey, you have the goal, focus on there, and typically nothing goes according to plan. You're going to get the curveballs, the surprises in the grass, and you just have to deal with it the best you can, pivot, and then get back to work and stay focused on the goal. Because those things can take you off track, and then you don't achieve that goal in 6 months or 2 years or 5 years. And it's just a great metaphor for just staying focused and handling with what life gives you. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, and anyone listening, go back and rewind and listen to that again. Suleyka, there's so much gold packed into that. Teaches you greatness, gratitude, personal development. I'm a big proponent of personal development, and then your want is always greater than your fear. That was great. Well put.
That was awesome.
I couldn't put any better. I'm gonna repeat. Yeah, that was good.
Well, guys, we're just over the hour mark, so we'll start wrapping up here. But I mean, Ben, I like the new segment you did with the audio clips. I know that takes. I've done that a few times in the past, and I tend not to do because it takes a lot of work to do it. I've had to go back and listen and take notes and prep. So I'm impressed. I like it. I know what it takes. I know the amount of work it takes to make that happen. So thank you. And then Alyson, Suleyka, Jeff, thank you guys so much for coming on the episode. This was a great one. We appreciate your time and your knowledge.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. All right, everyone. Till next time.
Cheers.
Cheers, house hackers.